Hello, my name is Lori Udick. I'm with the UCF Faculty Center. Before I started here, I was in the English department where I taught poetry and creative nonfiction. And I'm going to talk a little bit with you all today about AI tools and how they can be helpful for you. I want to start by just sort of mentioning that it feels like it's new since ChatGPT came on the scene at the end of November in 2022, but really we've been using AI pretty much everywhere. Anytime something autocorrects or you search for something or Amazon hits you up with a product they think you'll like, anytime Siri talks to you or Alexa, even when you use voice to text voicemails, anything like that is AI. So it's not really new, just the large language models being released to us are new. I think that in education, we tend to say things are changing and it's going to be a huge, big difference. And that's not always wrong, but that's always our first reaction. When the calculator came out, everyone really worried that math was over. Like there's no reason to teach math in the ways that we have before. When the camera came out, this cheerful guy here said if photography is allowed to supplement art in some of its functions, it will soon supplant or corrupt it altogether. Now we think of photographers as artists and part of the process, not part of the problem. Even Google searches and Wikipedia were really problematic when they first came out. Like, oh, if students can Google the answers, what are we all doing here? So the thought about this changing everything isn't a new one either. Large language models are AI, they're part of AI. So if you think of AI being a huge Swiss Army knife, the biggest blade on it might be the large language model. So it's part of AI, but it's not just AI. Generative AI, the ones that we're going to be talking about the most are the large language models like ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, Perplexity, Claude. There's a million of them. And there will be more. It's going to be like Netflix at some point. We thought we needed that, and now we also need Hulu and Apple and a million other things. So we're going to talk mostly about large language models today, but there are others, generative AI, if you've been playing around with video, animation, or image creators, those are all part of the larger piece of artificial intelligence too. I want to just briefly talk about how large language models work. And large language models are trained on huge amounts of text from all over, from books, articles, codes, websites. It just generates and scans and brings hundreds of billions of words into a program. Then this program uses deep learning techniques that sort of map the neural process to understand what the language is. Then it allows them to consider the context of words in a sentence. It's really a prediction model. So if I said row, row your, you would say boat, right? So that's basically what large language models do. They predict what's going to be said next. And when we input a prompt, the large language model receives a sequence of words. They use tokens, they don't do word count. They process it using all these behaviors and patterns of how language and relationships between words work, and then they generate an output by predicting the next word. And sometimes as they advance, they don't pick the most obvious words. So it might not be the sky is blue because that's said so often. It might be the sky is periwinkle or something like that to make it sound a little bit more human than robotic. So that's what they are. They have learned to teach themselves basically over time, allowing them to adapt and improve. They don't really know how they're teaching themselves, but that is a question and conversation for another day. Hopefully they'll figure it out because it's sort of dangerous to go unchecked. So I asked Adobe Firefly to create a metaphor for me on how large language models work. And I think this is so positive and pretty. Like all of these like lovely books are just around there with all this knowledge just waiting to be put in together for us. But I like this one better. When I asked Dolly to do it, the free version, it created this. And I feel like this is a more accurate view. There's all this stuff out there. Some of it's good, some of it's not good. And we're just sort of standing in the peripheral around it, trying to figure out how to manage it what to do with it, how to use it correctly, how not to fall behind, how to be part of the conversation. So I like that we're sort of standing in this distance going, I don't know what's happening. So I wanted to show you just sort of briefly, how good is it? And I'd like you, if you have a minute, to just jump off and go kind of look at it. UCF has created Copilot for you all, has purchased that for you. So the way that that will work is that you can log in using your UCF ID. This can show you how, or you can kind of link into Bing Chat, even though it's not called Bing Chat anymore, it'll still take you there. And then you put in your name, your UCF address. So you don't have to create an account. You don't have to do anything that you might not want to do if you're still considering how you want to use these tools. I will say the problem with Copilot is that it won't it won't save your conversation. So if you wanted to go back and ask it something else, you wouldn't be able to do that. So what is it good at and what is it not so good at? Large language models are really good at summarizing and writing out abstracts or searching for keywords, taking complex things and making them less complex. They're good for brainstorming and answering questions. If you ask it to tell you steps on how they get to those answers, it can do that as well. They're not always right, but it does do that. It can classify, outline. I know people that have put their papers into it and asked it to outline it and pull out key points, and were sort of surprised that those were not the key points they thought they were. Can also do first drafts well and shallow analysis. It's not a thinker, obviously. That's what we need humans for. We need humans to critique what comes out, to use good judgment with it, to consider ethics, to evaluate it, to find out if it is true, if it's actually helpful. Also, it can't socially interact with us or deeply analyze things. A lot of reasons that people use large language models is because they work, except when they don't. So, for example, just the other day, I put in there, give me 10 10-letter words. You can count them yourselves, but they're not all 10 letters. It can't count very well yet. It's not designed for that. It's designed for language, but that doesn't mean that it isn't learning different things as well. AI can write poetry, it says, but it struggles with math. I would argue that it doesn't really write poetry. It does write things that rhyme, but I wouldn't call it really poetry. Here are some things it's gotten wrong. We asked it, when did Leonardo da Vinci paint the Mona Lisa? It said in 1815, which would have been sort of difficult because he would have been dead for 300 years by then. Tell me a fact about George Washington. They said he was known for inventing the cotton gin, but he wasn't. That was Eli Whitney. So it's getting better, but you shouldn't trust that it's correct. I'm sure that your teachers have probably already mentioned that to you. I will just show you that I was playing with it. I put in a physics question that came from the physics classroom. And so the answer is supposed to be 16.51, and there's some steps on how that goes. So I put it in Claude, and I asked it the same question. It gave me a very long, detailed response. But then it gave me an answer of 18.2. You might remember that it was 16.51. So I said, are you sure? And Claude's like, yes, I'm confident in my work and solution. Let me know if you have any specific doubts or you think there's an error, which, okay, Claude. And then I said, I thought the answer was 16.5. I wish I would have put in a different number, because I don't know if I put another incorrect number, would it have figured out a way to make it match? I'm not sure. And it was too late when I went back to try to get it, had gotten it right then. So, it apologizes. So it's not always right. I don't know if I would not have known that, having taken very little physics and a million years ago too. So again, I went into Gemini, which is Google's use, and it figured it out too. It gave a lot less steps. It was a little bit off as far as, it was 5-1. It did allow me to Google where the answers were. So if I wanted to look at it, I could. ChatGPT did a good job answering it. It's the only one that got the answer completely all the way down, and it broke it apart in a way like that. And I think that some students can and are using it to practice and work with it. I will say there's research out that students think that it's making their scores improve when they put questions in there and then look at the answers, but they say that it's not actually doing that. It's more helpful for you to sit down and do something with paper. There's a reason for that with the brain, but that's a whole different talk. I asked Perplexity to solve it. I thought it was kind of cool how it also gave me other ideas, gave me videos it could link to. It gave me scratch paper, all sorts of things to use with it to find the answer. It also did 16.5 instead of 16.51. I don't know if that really matters, but it allows you to search videos to do that as well. And that's one of the few ones that will actually link you to a video. I thought I would briefly go over a little bit of the large language models. ChatGPT, which is what 66% of college students are using, is consistently rated pretty accurate and more creative than the others. I'm not sure I agree. I think Claude is pretty does better with some brainstorming. It knows a lot of languages. It's the free version is limited to information before 2021, doesn't have access to the internet, but the other ones do if you are paying the $20 a month. Copilot is what we use here at UCF. It also uses GPT-4 technology. It has internet access. It'll link to that. They're not the best sources. It's something, sometimes it'll be like Teachers Pay Teachers or .com. It's not always giving you the best sources. It is safe though and protects your personal data and work data if you do happen to work here as well. Claude is it was founded by people that left OpenAI, the people that created ChatGPT for ethical reasons, and it promises to be helpful, harmless, and honest. It processes huge amounts of text, up to 150 pages. You can attach files to it. It explains its thinking, and it's a little bit more conversational. Google Gemini accesses the internet, also links you to their, again, not always the best sources, but good sources. It knows a bunch of languages as well, and you have the ability to link to Google to check the output. Perplexity, which I'm going to show you a little bit more about, acts like a search engine that creates a lit review for you, and it's a really cool tool. And I think that you might enjoy it, and it's it does a lot of things for free. This is Copilot, which I mentioned already. It's safe, it protects your data. You log in through your UCF email. It uses GPT-4 technology, the advanced model. It doesn't store the data that you input it, so you can't teach it. You can't upload a file. It's got a limit on how much you can produce, about 650 words. And there's a pretty limited conversation, 5, 10, or 30. It really depends. It says 30 sometimes, and then sometimes it'll say 10, and sometimes it'll say 5. It's not consistent on how much you can ask it. So what are some ways that you can use it for academic success? Large language models do a really good job of summarizing things, writing abstracts, and taking dense readings and making them understandable. I don't really want to promote too long didn't read, but if you're struggling to understand something, it can very quickly and easily rewrite it in a way that is more helpful for you. It's also great at creating study guides, pulling key points from textbooks. Pearson and other textbooks have AI built into it already, so you can ask it to come up with study guides or flashcards or things like that. I know someone who is dyslexic, and he audio tapes his lecture notes, his lectures every time he's sitting in class. He puts it into ChatGPT, asks them to transcribe it, then create flashcards and all sorts of materials, and it's really improved his grades. Also, it explains how to simplify a topic or a clarification or answer questions, provide alternative explanations to what was covered in class. It's a really good brainstorming partner. If you want to test out a research question or organize something, it's good at doing that as well. It will help you figure out writing, improve grammar, suggest clearer sentence structures, and you can even ask it to give you feedback on your drafts before you turn them in. It's good at making practice tests too. It'll give you as many multiple choice as you like, all A to Z. You don't have to just stick with a couple. It gives you fill in the blank questions. It'll offer feedback to your responses. It also has some interactive concept maps that visually organizes ideas and subtopics and their relationships. It allows you to reorganize your lecture notes and group topics together and highlight key points. It does it way faster than a human could. It's also good at language learning to practice if you're taking a foreign language, how it can translate phrases, can help you correct your grammar and your syntax. You can even have a dialogue with it where you ask it, is this correct? Are we having a conversation that makes sense on my end? It can be a cool time management coach too. If you put in your schedule, if you have a work schedule as well, ask it to customize things, break down tasks before finals week. What do I need to do every day to prepare? You can create a study group or other work agenda with it, create a schedule. I have it do daily to-do lists for me all the time. I have a bunch of things to do, so I ask it, okay, to get these done, please create a schedule for me. It also tracks, you can track your study habits, your fitness habits, your eating habits, anything like that, and it'll offer you suggestions as well. So what I wanted to talk about too, just a tiny bit, is how to become AI fluent. And a lot of employers are looking for people who understand what that is. And thinking about what people want, we don't really want a cyborg, right? They don't just want the technology. If we did, then there would be no need for you as an employee, right? Instead, you want someone that can use AI tools and still bring the human component and value to it. So thinking about AI fluency looks at thinking about understanding how it works, just knowing the capabilities and limitations of the tools you're using, deciding when to use it. Sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it is absolutely not helpful. Valuing it, understanding that it's got drawbacks and benefits, really working on your prompt engineering, learning how to ask the right questions to get the desired output. I put one kind of small prompt formula on the side that you can use, but using a persona and asking it to explain something and give the steps to it will really help your output. Then evaluating it. Sometimes it's hard to do that as a student if you're using it for something in a course because you don't know what you don't know sometimes, right? So if you're looking at this output and trying to see if it's true or not, you're going to have to go to outside sources. And I have some ideas on how you can go through that process of evaluating it. Also adding human value, like understanding what you bring to this. What do you, as a person in the world, as an employee, as a student, what do you bring to AI with what you've generated? And then are you adaptable? Just being adapted and prepared to try new things as they come. That's what it looks like to be fluent in AI. And I like this quote about Perplexity, as I mentioned before, where it says it's the CEO of the company says it's like ChatGPT and Wikipedia had a baby, but it is really good at sources. And if you can see here, you don't have to sign up. You can just use it like you do for Google. Just ask it a question. I put in a question that I thought you might have in a college level biology class. I asked it to only look at academic sources, so it pulled all these up for me. If I want to, I can go and click the ones on the side here that I don't want anymore, that I think are not good sources, and it'll regenerate it from that as well. So if you want to just kind of go and play with it, you can. Also, if you're worried about it taking your data, if you do want to make an account so you can go back and keep communicating with it, there's an option to opt out under your settings. So you can say, don't store my data, don't keep my data, don't learn from my data, if that makes you feel better about it. So getting to the evaluation part, the value and usefulness of it, are you okay with putting your name on this? I mean, is it how much of it is you? How much of it is AI? Is it good? Was the response detailed enough? Did it save time or provide insights you hadn't considered? Could you have found this information another way more effectively, more easily? I know we all get a little weirded out by the blank screen, but sometimes we spend so much more time trying to make something we think is easier work than just using completely the human component. And some things to ask you, did it help clarify? Was it, these complex ideas? Was it helpful for brainstorming? Was the output worth the environmental drain? There is a drain to AI tools, and there's going to be a tipping point. So we're going to have to get to the point where, like anything else, we decide, is it worth the gas to go to the beach? Is it worth, any decision you might make? Is it worth the environmental drain? Also, thinking about accuracy and reliability, checking to make sure that's true with trusted sources. So cross-checking important facts, not just, doing another Google search, like looking up. You're here to in academia. So how can you act as an academic and find information that is appropriate for your discipline? Thinking about depth and relevance in ways that we don't when we're just on our own playing around with the tools. This is a great link to look at if you want to. Unfortunately, with the video, I can't. I think I can drop it into the YouTube one. But this is by Dr. Jennifer Parker. She's up at UF. She's created a way to just like really look at the output, and she's got a lot of prompts and cool things that kind of land you into improving your prompt engineering and your evaluation skills. So it might be worth your time to just take a quick look at that. Also, you have to really think about ethical considerations. Did the model generate content that could be biased or harmful? It does that. Is it appropriate to use AI for this task? Is this academic integrity? If you don't know, it's great to ask your professor about that. But it's a mistake not to think about it, right? The ethical use of it is definitely included if you're here to learn. If you only can create output from AI and not do much with it, then what would make you effective in the workplace? It's only $20 a month for ChatGPT Pro. So are you being transparent about what you used? So asking yourself, what percentage is you and what percentage is the large language model, and how do you feel good about that? And really, like, I don't know those answers. It's different from everyone. But if you have permission to use the tools and you're using them, how you've got to cite that as a source, and you have to think about what you're ending up with and how much of it is you and how you can communicate that. Always reflect on the process. Always ask yourself later, did the tool enhance my learning? Did it contribute to a deeper understanding, or did it just simplify something? And sometimes it's fine just to simplify it. You need a table. It created a table for you. Great. That's something that's probably, unless you're in graphic design and learning how to make learning tables is an idea for that, then yeah, use it for things that don't matter in that way for your education. Would you use it again for similar tasks? Did it change the way you approach work? What can you offer that the large language model can't? What do you bring? And did it add or subtract from your value? If you're interested, there's a free book. You can use the code here, or you can Google it. It's listed in the UCF library. It's written for educators, but every page has a lot of different prompts and ideas. And there's a whole section called Study that you can look at that I think would be helpful just to come up with even more ideas on how to use it to improve your skills. Speaking of ethics, which I mentioned a little bit ago, I'll just want to tell you things that it does that are kind of interesting. So when I was putting together a presentation, I kept putting in female redhead English professor. And so they would give me these outputs in the corner. So one where I'm really young and can't spell. I don't know what that is. Young and hot. And one where I'm just old and pissed off, apparently. So those are my two options, right? And that's fine. But then I got to the end and I forgot to put in female. I just said redheaded English professor. And I got those on the other side for men every time. I put in, so then I tried to trick it. I didn't put male. I just left out a gender. I just said English professor. So then I put in dance teacher, and I put dance professor and art professor and social work professor. And I also put in women's studies, not gender, women's studies. And I got the one guy that's closest here with the square glasses, and you can tell he looks worried. He's like, I don't feel good about being the only one to talk about this subject, but it was still for men. So then I put in redheaded English teacher, and I got those along the bottom. Three females and then one man. So it's that kind of thing, right? That professor, according to the AI generator, is a man and teacher is a female. And statistically, there are more female English professors than males. Other things it does, this is one of the headshots from Headshot Pro. It's on Canva, but you can get it anywhere. What it claims to do, this is the language from the website. Our AI headshots capture your most photogenic qualities and reproduce them on a backdrop of your choosing. So perfect facial lighting, all of that. Well, my friend on the top there, she's a person of color wearing the plaid jacket, as you can see. Headshot Pro made her into a white woman in I don't know, some sort of white nursing outfit, I think. And that was their idea of making her more photogenic and corporate, making her more professional. And I'm sure that you can recognize the problems with that. I asked Canva to create a group of diverse college students. It did a decent job with that, but everyone is attractive, everyone is thin, everyone is fully abled. There's not diversity in that way, but it's better than it had been. Over on the side here, where you see the four college guy, all I put in there was college student who looks like they're thinking. I left it not gender specific. It only came up with 4. They were all men. In the middle, I put in the social justice activist, and it generated 3 women and 1 man, but they were all people of color, which is pretty much communicating that those are the only people that would be interested in social justice. At the bottom, you can see these Barbies that were generated after the Barbie movie came out. BuzzFeed put in, asked Midjourney to create a bunch of different images. Somehow it got published and was on Twitter. Twitter kind of blew up from it. If you can see how in South Sudan, she's holding a machine gun. So, and in the German one on the side, they've made her into a Nazi. Thailand has become white with blonde hair. Vietnam, there's something offensive about the flowers. It's something that isn't done there. I'm not sure what exactly it is now, but all of them, there were others too that were wrong, and whoever took them just published it immediately. And that's sort of what I wanted to get to with this. With you all, it doesn't matter that Midjourney created it. If you use it and send it out there, then your name's on it and it's about you, right? So that's you saying, I agree with this representation. So you really want to think about that. Do you agree? I will say that I think it's getting better. When I asked it in July to create a diverse group of students, you can see what it did compared to what it did in 2023. They've also lost the zombie look, which is good. But again, they're all, attractive, thin, able-bodied, which, it would be nice just to have people that look like most people. But it's getting better. I did want to kind of show you one little last thing here. So when I was using Adobe Firefly to create pictures for a slide presentation, and I like doing things with dogs. So I kept putting a group of dogs dressed professionally sitting at a conference table having a discussion. But you can see that they're all wearing suits, like they're all male dogs. There were no females. So then I asked it, okay, can you make it a diverse group of dogs? So now I think that I got one less lab, but again, there's maybe one on the side that might be not in a suit, but the rest of them were. So finally, I put a group of male and female dogs sitting at a conference table. But again, they're all wearing suits. I didn't get any females. When I put a group of female dogs, just left out males, again, they're all wearing suits. And I'm not saying a woman can't wear a suit, but it's unlikely that 6 of them at a table would be wearing one. So yeah, bad news. We're out of female dogs. So then I just thought, okay, what about cats? So I put male and female cats, and they were sitting at a conference table having a discussion, again, all wearing suits, except for maybe one in the upper left corner. So then I thought, I wonder what would happen if I changed conference table to kitchen table. So as you can see, all the females showed up at the kitchen table, but none of them in the conference table. So not everything is super obvious of what the biases that it's still holding. So that's really another place where you are needed. Finally, I'd love to hear from you if there's any ways that you're using AI tools and things that you've tried that are working and that you think would be helpful for other students. Please email me or stop by the Faculty Center. We're in Classroom Building 1. And thanks for listening. Have a wonderful day.